Yo, what is up guys? It is your boy Zether and I'm back at it again to drop another What If Deku series. This being, what if Deku was born with Granola's powers? Now, in case some of you guys may be down below and just be like, yo, who is this Granolah guy? Well, in case you guys don't watch Dragon Ball Super or, just read the manga, he's essentially a villain that is, terrorizing Goku and Vegeta right now for, some pretty cool reasons. So in case you want to find out more about him, just go on YouTube and look up Granolah Explained, or I can leave a couple links down below for you guys to understand who he is, and then come back to the video. But one more thing to add before I get started. Apologies for any background noise that you guys may hear. There may be a little bit, but nothing really I can do about that. But with that being said though, guys, I don't want to waste your guys' time. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so where our story is essentially all going to start off is the day that Deku was born. See, as soon as Deku's born, Inko and Asashi immediately realized that Deku looks absolutely nothing like them. As they would basically call up the nurse, and the nurse would say, hey, what do you guys need? As Inko would basically look at her and say, hey, my child doesn't look anything like either of us. Does it have something to do with like a mutation or something? As the nurse would basically give them a smile and basically say that, yeah, it's very common for the child to look a little different than the parents due to the quirk society that we all live in nowadays. Most of the time, the kids actually come out looking a little different, or sometimes exactly like a mix of both of them. But not to worry. If you guys have any issues or complaints, we could definitely just take a quick DNA test just to prove that it is both of yours, child. As Inko would say, no, that won't be. As Asashi would jump over her and say, yes, yeah, that'll definitely be necessary. Inko, you are tripping. I am going to find out if you cheated or not. And Inko would basically look at him with a little angry face as Asashi just says, what? She offered. As Inko just like, I know what you meant by that. As Asashi just say, hey, come on, can you blame me? Like, look at the kid. He doesn't look anything like me. As Inko would, of course, look at Asashi and give him a little bit of a frowny face. As Asashi would say, I'm sorry. As, about 1 hour later, the test would pretty much come back and it would all show that everything is fine. He's, of course, Inko and Asashi's son. And, well, they would both pretty much just get a good kick out of it, as they would basically take Deku home. And Deku would grow up in a loving, pretty happy family with Asashi and Inko. Excuse me. Oh my god, that snuck up on me. But anyways, that being said though, of course, as I already said, Deku would pretty much grow up with a loving family, and he'd basically continue growing up around someone like Katsuki. Katsuki Bakugo. I'm just gonna say Bakugo instead of Katsuki Bakugo, but yeah, Bakugo. As they would both be pretty good friends. They'd grow up together, and instead of Bakugo actually being like the little leader or having like that superiority complex due to him being way better than Deku and every other kid at the things that they basically did, like skipping rocks and just playing soccer or stuff like that, Deku would actually be the physically dominant one out of all of them, as he'd be the smartest, the strongest, the fastest. He'd be, well, anything that really matters in terms of being a kid, as he'd be pretty much the best at everything that he's ever done. As Bakugo, instead of looking at him like some rival, he actually looks up to Deku. And Deku and Bakugo grow up having a pretty great friendship from the start. There's never going to be no real division. As the years go on, Deku's power just grows more and more. As one day when Deku was about 4 years old, his mother Inko basically asked Deku if he could find the controller for her, as he'd basically proceed to pick up each and every single one of the couches looking under them, and she'd be like, Deku, how did you? As he would be like 4 years old at this point, and this was right as he turned 4 years old. As she would say, how are you? As she'd say, okay, I need to take you to the quirk doctor, where they would take him there and they'd examine him and basically say that, ma'am, we've never seen anything like your son before. Are you sure that he even has a quirk at all? Right here, it's showing us that he shouldn't have any power whatsoever. As Inko would say that she swears he literally lifted an entire couch. And she says, come on, sweetie, show him something. And Deku just goes up to some cabinet. It's a pretty big one at that, and it's made out of metal, as he just grabs it with both hands and lifts it up. As the doctor's just completely shocked, and he says, this is incredible. he may be an exception, or maybe he may be the next unique set of humans evolution or something like that. As they say that they have no idea how this happened, but if they keep studying him, maybe. And Inko would immediately say, ugh, 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 ugh. Me, la 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 la, me. Okay, that's better. Anyways, and Inko would basically proceed to say, absolutely not. You are not going to perform any types of experiments on my son, and that is just my final word. As the doctors would say, we understand. And this would pretty much just lead into Deku and Bakugo growing up together, as Bakugo would unlock his quirk, and at one point, he'd decide that, yeah, he's going to test who the strongest one is now. Now that he has a quirk, he might be able to beat Deku's super strength and his speed. That doesn't matter. Bakugo has a better quirk anyways, right? That's what he'd be thinking as he would try it, and he'd quickly realize that that is not the case. Deku would fold this man like a lawn chair, and Bakugo would never try to do something like that ever again. He got embarrassed in front of the whole class when they're like 5 years old, as Bakugo had to train it quite a little bit since it just started as little sparks, it wasn't that crazy. But anyways, that being said, they'd basically keep growing, being like the 2 most popular kids in the school, is just basically being really great guys. Bakugo's personality would take a swan dive from what it used to be in the original. Instead of being rude and arrogant, he'd be more down to earth and still confident and cocky, but he's not gonna sit there in your face and tell you, I'm gonna destroy you, like our original Bakugo. Still be a hothead though, since that's just Bakugo's nature, and it's growing up in the household he lives in. Yeah, that's definitely gonna happen. As of course, they basically grow up, and it's until 7th grade that on one day when Deku and Bakugo were just chilling in the cafeteria, just like eating their lunches together as usual, with the kid with the weird finger quirk and the wings would basically just be chilling. They'd all just be talking about the new game release that just released on Xbox or something like that, or PS4. Talking about Call of Duty or something, all that stuff. As they'd all be talking about, dudes, did you guys see the new skin pack or something, all that stuff. As out of nowhere, some girl with blue hair would walk in there. She'd have like some light blue hair, as Deku would immediately look at her direction and just immediately start drooling at her. She'd basically smile towards Deku's direction, and Deku would wave as he'd say, come over here. And she'd basically grab her lunch and she'd walk over there. And yes, guys, this is Nejire. Now, in order to explain how this is going to work, I'm going to essentially swap Uraraka and Nejire's ages. So instead of Nejire being like one of the top something heroes in UA right now, or no, she wouldn't even be there, but I'm basically just going to switch Uraraka and, Nejire. So like later on, once they get to UA, Uraraka is going to be part of the big 3 instead of Nejire. So that's going to be like the real change. Uraraka is going to get swapped with Nejire. That being said though, Nejire would walk up to Deku and she'd sit down and lay her tray down, as the kids or the boys would basically look at her and they just start messing with Deku, bumping his shoulder, saying, I see what's going on. As Deku would tell them all to basically just shut it, as they would all say, fine. And Deku would pretty much just proceed to start flirting with Nejire for the next couple of weeks, as he'd finally score a little bit of a date with her. And keep in mind, they're like 7th grade, they're nothing too crazy, but young love. But yeah, that being said, they'd basically proceed to hang out a little bit, and everything would be honestly going great. Their relationship would have actually been going perfect, and well, everything's honestly going fine. Deku and Nejire, like at about 3 months into talking and just flirting, would decide that they're gonna make it official. And Nejire and Deku would be the official ship for this series. Yes, boys, I know I asked you guys to vote, but that is going to be for the next series that I do. So whatever vote, whatever ship you guys voted in the community tab is what I'm going to do for the Mob Psycho, since, that's the one that I'm going to do after this one. And that one is going to be dropped as maybe a movie, maybe not. I'm still not sure, but yeah, Mob Psycho, Deku, one of those 2. That being said, however, Deku would pretty much just grow up with Bakugo, Nejire, and those other 2 kids, as they would pretty much proceed to all just hang out together and always train after school. Nejire, Deku, and Bakugo would always be found training in some abandoned area, which Nejire would actually train her quirk, and finally, around the age of like, let's say And around the age of the final day, the day of the sludge villain, she'd basically be at the level that she was in the literal anime, like the big three. She'd be that powerful already, seeing as she was trained with Bakugo and Deku. And Bakugo would get a major amp. Since he's not cocky, he wouldn't do the same stuff that he does. And he's more analytical with his fighting style, as well as more cautious with what he does. He keeps in mind other people's safeties, and he doesn't go overboard trying to tell people to die, as you know he would do in the original. That being said, though, basically Deku would also train a little bit, and I forgot to mention a little something, but Deku is literally known around the world as the chosen one. He is so incredibly powerful that heroes all over the world wanted to train him. This series is called What If Deku Was Born with Granola's powers. So Deku, as soon as he got around the age of like 13ish, would have unlocked all of the abilities, and this includes an insane amount of powers. If you guys want me to, matter of fact, I'm not even gonna ask. The red eye that he has literally gives him the ability to basically give him an enhanced vision, which basically lets him use his eye to observe the blood flow and muscle movements of his enemies, allowing him to basically determine the enemy's weak points and strike them more effectively than normal. He'd have this really cool electric shock thing that he can actually, instead of using a stun weapon, he would actually just use his finger to create the electric shock. He has finger beams, flight, telekinesis, you know, sensing key abilities, Hakai. He has, you know, his instant transmission teleporting ability, and you know, yeah, it's just overpowered. This man is incredibly powerful up to this point, and this is just from what we know currently. He may even have more abilities than even those, and on top of that, Deku can definitely throw those hands, seeing as he's definitely been trained by people like Endeavor, Hawks, All Might. Since, as I said, people all over the world have wanted to train Deku, and of course, seeing as Deku is an All Might fanboy, he was not about to pass up that opportunity to train with All Might. So Deku would definitely have trained with All Might at one point. And Deku and All Might basically have a pretty great relationship. All Might would have basically ended up training Bakugo. And at this point, Nejire and... but Bakugo would have actually been granted One For All. Seeing as All Might did offer it to Deku, but Deku was just so incredibly powerful, he just didn't see the need for it at all. So Bakugo ends up actually inheriting One For All, seeing as Bakugo was actually the weakest one out of all of them. Nejire could actually clap him in a fight. And since they're all at the age of like 15 at this point, essentially Bakugo is at like 20% One For All. Nejire is at the same power that she was in the Big 3 anime, just a little stronger, more, you know, hand-to-hand combat abilities. And Deku is as strong as the literal Granolah from the Dragon Ball Super manga. So yeah, Deku is broken to say the least. That being said, though, this is when they would basically all be talking as they're walking outside of the class after the teacher did his usual, I know you all want to become heroes stuff, you know, all that stuff. But that being said, though, he'd basically proceed to walk off with Bakugo, as Bakugo would ask if, you know, Deku wanted to go train with, you know, him. And Deku would say that he can't today. You know, he promised Nejire they'd go out today for a date. And Bakugo would, of course, you know, being the absolute mad lad he is, would understand Deku. He'd say, yeah, he understands. And he'd basically tell them both to, you know, not touch too much. As Deku and Nejire would just get a little red in the face, and Bakugo would walk off. As, you know, Bakugo is pretty much just going off on his own, and Deku and Nejire would take the path that Deku took in the OG My Hero Academia. As a sludge villain would jump out of the sewer, he would immediately catch wind of that kid. He's been all over the news. That's the most powerful kid in the world at the moment. Or so everybody's been saying. People know that Deku is even more powerful than All Might at this point. Seeing as All Might did a literal demonstration just showing people that he is here, and he is here to become the next most powerful being in the world. As of course, you know, the sludge villain would immediately be terrified and just be thinking, yeah, probably should have let All Might capture me. Now I have to deal with this kid. And as soon as Deku sees the sludge villain, he would immediately know what's going on. He'd put two and two together and just point his finger at the sludge villain as he would levitate it and just say that, you know, go to jail right now and I won't hurt you. As a sludge villain would basically just nod its eyes, be like, yes, I swear I will leave right now. please don't hurt me. As Deku would just throw the sludge villain as far as he can, all the way to the police station. Or no, he wouldn't even have to do that. He'd literally just hold it, instant transmission there, and the sludge villain would be in jail. As Deku would go back to Nejire and say, so, where were we? And All Might would land as he would say, Deku, did you save the kid? Did you capture the sludge villain before me? As Deku would say, yeah, I already took it to jail. And All Might would say, kid, you impress me every day. As Deku would say, so how's that injury holding up? As All Might would basically say, shh. And Nejire would say, oh, I already know. Deku already told me. As All Might would just like face palm and be like, so you told everybody. This is when Deku would proceed to look at All Might and say that, if he wants, he can maybe help out with the injury. He doesn't know if he could fully heal it, but using his ki, he could probably actually help All Might with his, his condition. As Deku would close his eyes and just basically point his ki right at the injury, as he would begin to basically shoot it there, and the injury would go away slightly. The injury would get a little better. It would heal just a little bit, just a little bit. As All Might would feel a little more invigorated. He'd get like 10% of his power, extra percent of his power back, and this would be great going on with the rest of the story. That being said, though, Deku and Nejire would proceed to enjoy a little date or whatever, and this is when they would both basically decide afterwards to text Bakugo as they want to do some training. Bakugo would meet them at the beach, and Deku would basically say that their training is going to be getting rid of this entire, beach of trash. As they'd say, what? And Deku would say, yeah, and with no quirks. As it would take them all like 3 months to finish doing everything. As, Bakugo and Nejire, they got the most improvement out of this training. Seeing as Deku just, the man can't get any stronger, dude. He's already as strong as Ultra Instinct Goku and God of Destruction like Vegeta. So it's, come on now. Like, it's just not going to go well. Like, he can't get any stronger. This whole series is just going to be a slap of Deku. It's more going to be like more like a slice of life, what if, instead of like my usual stuff where there's a tiny bit of story, and it's most likely just gonna be a slice of life with Deku just messing around with Bakugo, Nejire, just being the 3 musketeers of mischiefs. As they're all 3 of them are just best friends at this point, and they're doing great things. That being said, I'm just going to basically fast forward the 10 months of training that they're going to have, as, there's really not that much that I can really say. And from after the 10 months, I guess I'll just basically give you guys their powers after that. So, yeah, essentially Deku's powers in basically like learning his abilities would pretty much just be him essentially mastering his abilities a little more and becoming a little stronger, seeing as he did just the average training that like someone like Goku would do or something like that, like a million sit-ups and stuff like that, with Bakugo and Nejire just at awe at his power. Deku would of course be ripped, absolutely ripped. Bakugo would have actually ended up getting a full mastery of, let's say, I said 30 before, right? Let's say he gets a mastery of 70% full cowling, and at this point he's unlocked each and every single one of One For All's quirks. Seeing as if you guys have seen the anime, you guys know that there's quirks that are inside of One For All, so he unlocks each and every single one of them. And Bakugo himself could honestly defeat each and every one of the villains at this point already. Nejire's power would pretty much quadrupled in terms of her strength, fighting ability, her blast. She would have definitely done a lot of training of those with Deku, seeing as he has the flight, he can fly and shoot energy beams, so he definitely taught her something. And Deku would have also been working on his Hakai, seeing as after cleaning up the entire beach, Deku pretty much just Hakai'd the entire dumpster. So all that all that waste and dump, it was gone. There was room for more. And after doing that, people around the world would have basically asked Deku to get rid of their trash as well. So Deku would just go around and go boop, 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 just destroying everything that, people don't really want. Like garbage and pollution and stuff like that. He'd pretty much just do stuff like that. That being said, though, guys, Deku would pretty much just end off all that with a good old study session with Nejire, and after that, basically just going to skip on over to the day of the entrance exam. Deku would of course be walking in with Bakugo and Nejire, as a bunch of kids would just be whispering to themselves, that's the kid, that's him, that's Granolah. that's basically the hero name that Deku has chosen, and that's what he wants people to call him by. People like Nejire and Bakugo just refer to him as Deku, and seeing as Bakugo gave him that nickname, but they don't even use it in a way to be mean. So Deku is still Deku, and Nejire just kind of calls him Babe or whatever, usual stuff, a little something. But anyways, with that being said, though, whew, I need my breath. I haven't stopped talking this whole time. Sheesh. All right, anyways, with that being said, they'd pretty much all be walking in, and some of the people would basically be like, oh, pray, like, all hail this mighty person. Like, dude, you are incredible. Just being absolute fangirling at Deku. And Deku would just, he'd be enjoying it. He'd be eating it up. As this version of Deku definitely has a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit of a god complex, seeing as, when you're told that you're amazing by everyone in the world, not just your class, you tend to get that a little bit. I mean, Inko definitely helped with keeping him in check, and Asashi just is loving it, seeing as they are actually a rich family. If Deku wanted to, he wouldn't even have to become a hero. He could literally skip the entire process and just straight become a hero just whenever he wants. Nezu had already offered him that choice, and everybody around the world pretty much already agreed with that. But Deku's just doing this as a formality, But yeah, that being said, though, Deku would proceed to go inside the entrance exam, ace the test with Bakugo and Nejire all doing the same. No Ida situation, seeing as Ida was not about to stand up to this boy Deku. Like, he knows if he pisses him off, this whole little UA place will be gone in an instant. As Deku obliterated mountain ranges with a point of a finger before on tape. So yeah. People know how powerful this man Deku is, and they definitely acknowledge his abilities. That being said, though, Deku would go outside, and Nejire and himself would both have the same area that they're going to be fighting the robots in. Nezu would actually ask Deku if he could actually not do that part. He doesn't really want Deku to do anything, but he does have one robot that Deku might have some fun with. As Nezu would say that they developed something even stronger than the 0-pointer to take on Deku. And, Nejire just goes in there, does this stuff, while Deku just sits there listening to his headphones, just chilling, he's really just vibing to his music. He's wearing like a little green, like a hoodie similar to the color of, his hair. He's wearing some black jeans, and let's just say he's wearing some CDGs, right? Yeah, he's wearing that. As he's just chilling there with his earbuds in, not earphones, but earbuds, some Beats or whatever, some Raycon earbuds, sponsor me by the way. But anyways, Deku would basically proceed to do that, and he'd just be chilling, as Nezu would basically say, the time's almost here, Deku, you might as well get ready. As Deku would say, yeah, and Nezu would pretty much unveil the new and improved 0-pointer. Every other area got the normal one, but Deku, he had to face the monstrosity that could even give All Might some problems. So with that being said, though, Deku would basically look at it as he'd immediately just point his finger at it and just Hakai that thing straight out of existence. And Nezu's jaw would just drop as he would say, I don't know what I was even thinking, spending millions of dollars on that. He wasn't even gonna... And Deku would then proceed to smile at Nezu as he says, that it? As Nezu would just kind of be like, yeah. And this is when Deku, Nejire, Bakugo would all just go home, as they're all basically talking about what had happened. Nejire would just say Deku obliterated everything, and Nezu didn't even give him the chance of fighting the robot, seeing as he knew that if Deku got the chance, he would have obliterated more than anybody. Like, it's not even funny how much more Deku would have done than other people. So that being said, though, Deku would essentially proceed to walk home with them, and they'd all basically just wait for their letters to come in, as that's pretty much the area that they're all in at the moment. That being said, though, Deku and Nejire and stuff like that would basically just wait for all their stuff. They'd be doing their stuff. They're basically, sorry that I'm saying so much, but No, but seriously though, Deku, Nejire, Bakugo would proceed to basically just chill those couple of days, have some movie nights in Deku's private, his theater in his home, and they'd proceed to basically just be chilling these days, a little bit of training in and out every now and then. And Bakugo would definitely be doing the most training out of all of them. He wants to catch up to Deku, even though he knows it's impossible. Anything even a little close to Deku, he'll take. Like, Bakugo would be so cocky if Deku wasn't there to basically, you know, give a check on him every now, give him a check, you know, check that man. But yeah, that being said, they'd basically go to UA, and this is where Deku would basically just proceed to walk inside of the UA building. As also, I forgot to mention, Deku also knows Aizawa, and Aizawa taught him how to use that scarf that Deku, or that Granolah, has in the thumbnail. You guys see that scarf? Yeah, Deku knows how to use the Aizawa scarf. That's even scarier. So Deku and everybody would walk into class, and immediately Deku would go over to Aizawa as he just wakes him up, and Aizawa was just like, "What do you want? Just let me sleep." As Deku was just like, "Dude, Aizawa sensei, come on, like, all of us are pretty much here. Let's get started." As Aizawa was just like, "Oh, what do you care? You're not even gonna take part in it." As Deku just looks at him and says, "What? You're kidding me right now, right? Come on. Just give me the chance." As Aizawa would say, "No, you literally just destroy every record again, just like you did when you were like 9 years old." As Deku would just say, "That's not fair." And Aizawa would then look at Deku as he just says, "Yeah, well, life isn't fair." He'd basically get up and basically tell the rest of the class that they have to do their stuff. And, well, yeah. And anyways, yeah, everybody would pretty much go outside as Aizawa has them all take their exams. Bakugo would get first place, Nejire second, and yeah, that's pretty much how everything goes from this point on. That being said, though, I guess we could also even cover the heroes versus villains arc, seeing as there's really nothing else I can do at the moment. I mean, the video is only 25 minutes long at this point, or the recording. So, yeah, I guess I could keep going. That being said, they'd basically all go home, and the very next day, All Might would bust in through the doors. He says, "I am here!" As everybody in the class just like, "All Might!" And All Might just, you know, basically tells them all to get suited up, seeing as the clothes make the pros. Deku would, of course, wear the Granolah outfit, and he would literally look like him, except his hair would be the long version of Granolah's hair, seeing as I actually like that version a lot more than the one in the thumbnail. I like it when he had his long hair. That just looks so much more cool than, you know, the usual Deku. I mean, the usual Granolah that, you know, we have in the manga. That being said, you know, of course, Deku would pretty much just get changed up, and this is when All Might would basically tell them all that, you know, they were originally going to basically all take their, you know, their exams separately, but instead he has a more fun idea. Deku, he would basically point at Deku, and Deku would say, "Yeah, what's up?" And All Might would basically tell him that if he wants to help out with, you know, this class today. As Deku would say, "Sure," and All Might would say, "Great." As he would basically proceed to tie up both of Deku's arms, blindfold the man, and then proceed to tell him, "You're only allowed to use 10% of your power. Is that understood? And you better not hurt any of the students, seeing as that'll go on that'll be my fault." And Deku would proceed to just look at All Might and say, "Oh no. Am I gonna have to?" As All Might would say, "Yes." And Deku would proceed to basically just sighs. He says, "All right." As everybody in the class just like, "So what are we gonna do?" Some of the girls are basically looking at Deku, and Nejire is not having any of it. As, you know, the people in the class are basically told that, yeah, they're all gonna fight Deku in a 1v the entire class plus All Might and Aizawa. As All Might, Aizawa, and the rest of the class, as well as Class 1B, would just come in. And Deku, with both of his arms tied behind his back, a blindfold on, would proceed to fold everybody like a lawn chair. He would proceed to go up to Bakugo first, as he would proceed to basically flip and kick that man on the back of the head. Bakugo unconscious instantly. He'd go up to Nejire and he'd tell her he's sorry, as he basically just proceeds to shoot an energy beam at her head, which knocks her out immediately. And for the rest of the people, he'd massacre them all. He'd basically just shoot out his ki pressure and knock out each and every single one of the rest of the students remaining. And for Aizawa, he'd literally blitz in front of him and teleport him to the other side of the world, where it's extremely cold. Think Aladdin, if you guys saw that movie. Like, yeah. But yeah. And as for All Might, Deku would just show up in front of him as he smiles, and All Might just says, "I give up. I yield." As Deku just says, "Too late." And he would break the restrictions on his arms and just send All Might crashing into the wall. As Deku would just proceed to laugh. And everybody in the class would just get up like 2 hours later. They're just like, "It's not fair. This kid is too strong. What are you, dude? Like some sort of god?" As Deku, of course, is just like, "Nah. I'm just, you know, me." As everybody in the class is just like, "Yeah, we noticed. And yeah, that being said though, guys, this is going to mark the end of today's video. What if Deku was born with Granolah's powers? If you guys want a part 2 to this more of a slice of life What If Deku series, I suggest you go down below and smash that like button, seeing as your boy is definitely going to need a lot of likes to feel the need to record part 2. With that being said though, guys, make sure to go down below and report your attendance, seeing as that's my pinned comment. Go down below and, you know, comment here. And make sure you share this video with a friend, as well as hit that subscribe button, seeing as like 50% of you guys aren't subscribed, which is kind of tragic. If you're gonna watch the videos, come on, you might as well subscribe. Don't be mean. Come on, do you both a favor, just subscribe. You know you love this video, you know I love you, you know we have a mutual understanding. So that being said, you know, just do your boy a favor. But anyways, that being said though, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, guys, I love you all. It has been your boy Zether, and I am out. Peace.